Video, we connected the battery of 4.5V to Rigal and demonstrated how the Rigal measured the voltage and how it was represented on a display of the screen. In today's video, we're going to explain how to connect Rigal to a temperature measure device LM35DZ. We will imagine that we want to use Rigal RS-08 to control the temperature of a room. To do this, we are using the temperature probe that is one of the most popular, and we will show how it is easy to install and set up a sensor with Rigal. We will also show how to configure this channel and making the display adequately show us the exact temperature in Celsius. And we will also teach how to change the display type and its size. We're going to install the temperature probe in channel 2. Remember, the Rigal has 8 input channels for controlling a lot of measures at the same time. To make this possible, firstly, we take the Rigal and we will loosen up the screws of the terminal 5 and 6 and 7. We will take out the metallic controller between terminals 5 and 6. Once we have removed it, we will connect the positive wire of the probe, red wire, in terminal 4, the negative wire, black wire, in the terminal 5, and yellow wire in the terminal 6. We screw the terminals and we will have our sensor connected. Now, we plug the Rigal, and once the display screen has appeared, we will show how in channel 2 displays appears a measure that belongs to each signal sent by the sensor. We don't have to worry if the number that appears doesn't make much sense. This is because we have to set up the sensor depending on the characteristics. In this situation, we will see how a number appears closer to 0 and we aren't at 0 grades in the room. Now we go to Rigal app to see how to configure a channel and how to edit according to your necessities. To see or edit the characteristics of your channel, where we have installed the temperature probe, in this case channel 2, we move to the top of the display and we do right click on our mouse. Rigal will show the following dialog screen. The first box belonging to the number of the channel, in this case channel 2, is the number 2. The following box allows us to set up the display for it to be visible or not in the screen. In this case, we will use it to make it visible. The third box allows to choose the type of display we want. We can choose between 4 different types of different indicators. I recommend to try the different displays and choose the one that fits better your necessities. In this case, I will choose the display with a needle again. It is not the most appropriate to represent the measurement of temperature, but I choose this one because it has certain particularities that I want to explain. Later I will take advantage to change the display with the needle. This is measuring the voltage of the battery for a different one. If we go down to the next box, we can enter a name that identifies what we are measuring. On this situation, we write living room. This name will appear in the lower left side of the display. Afterwards, we can enter in the box the representation of the units of measurement. In this case, we're measuring temperature and our unit of measurement are Celsius, represented by C. We could choose a standard unit, one of the 8 that appear in the folder box, or type your own in the alternative units box. If we click here where it says alternative units, we can write our own. Rigal only accepts 5 characters for the description of the measurement units. Afterwards, we can see that there is a section in the dialog box called Set Points. Here we can set the high and low thresholds of the channel, so that when they are exceeded, an alarm is lit on the display. We set the high on 22 degrees centigrade and low in 19. When the temperature is below the 19 degrees, a relay is activated. For example, to turn on a heater, we must type in the relay box the relay number that we want to activate. If we don't want to activate any relay, we must type 0. Let's put 1 in the relay box, link to the low threshold and leave the high threshold 0. Now we place ourselves in the box to determine the number of the decimals that we want to appear in our measure. We must choose a number between 0 and 3. In this case we will choose 1 because we're only interested in having one decimal place. We move to the units per bulb. Perhaps it's the most important parameter on the channel that we should adjust. Almost any sensor except those that measure bulbs directly give different values in volts. They have to be converted into physical unit that is measured, for example, degrees centigrade. This can be a well-known value probably included in the technical datasheet, or we have to determine ourselves. Zero value. Some sensors, this is not uncommon, don't give 0 volts when measuring the value of 0, corresponding to the variable that is being measured. Temperature, pressure, speed. In this block we will type the value in volts that the sensors give output. When the value of the measured variable is 0, this value can be known because it is usually included in the table of technical characteristics of the sensor, or we will have to determine it, for which I invite you to see an entry entitled Connections of Sensors and Adjustments that you can find in the corner Rigal's Made corner in that section of our web, rigalsystems.com. For the sensors that we are using, the value that must include is 0, because when the sensor gives 0 volts, the temperature is 0 degrees. Now let's go to the top scale box. This value refers to the maximum value the sensor can measure, or to the maximum value that we expect to obtain in the measurement. It has a visible effect only in the scale that is shown in the analog display, such as meter. Once entered the value that we estimate, we will make the appropriate adjustment. We are going to introduce a value of 50 degrees as a full scale. We will hardly have 50 degrees in our room. If you were, for example, 50 degrees as the top scale, Rigal would choose the scale 5 and that factor x10 times 10. This value, top scale, has no effect on the appearance of the types display, but is very important, whatever the type of display, in the hysteresis of the alarms. But we're not going to stop in this concept because whoever wants it can go to the manual and go deeper in this matter. Finally, there are several boxes to define the positive bandwidth of the display. We adjusted the size to 160 pixels for example, and we set the positive in the same coordinates that it used to be. We have already configured the temperature sensor. Press OK and wait for all the new channels parameters to be recorded and the display screen recalculated. The change of position can also be done with the mouse directly on the display by pressing drag and drop. However, especially the movement of display and the way which Rigal recalculates the positions and size of this will also make specific video about this. Well, we already have the display screen in progress and we see how the temperature probe is measuring the temperature of the room and how at the same time we are measuring the battery voltage. We're going to introduce the sensor in a glass of cold water to see how the alarm is activated at the LED that corresponds to the relay number 1 lights up. Now we're going to change the type of voltage measuring display and we are going to choose a simple display without alarms such as a BSD type. We move above the display with the right click on the mouse and the display configuration dialog box appears. We change it in the type display box and click OK. Wait for it to reconfigure the screen. If we want to see a graph of the evolution of the measurement of these sensors over time, we will only have to press the button located to the left of the configuration. Click here and we will see the different measurements obtained in this time. If you want to record data that is being received, we click on the rec button and from that moment start recording the data obtained until we press this button again to stop recording. In another video we will show how to configure this screen and the recording parameters. We let our Rigal show the room temperature and the battery voltage in the trend graph. For more information, visit our website, read the product manual, or contact us.